Welcome everyone. This is my Compaq Deskpro 466. I got the cover off because I wanted to do some demonstrating and explain some of this stuff. So first and foremost, I bought this machine off eBay a couple months ago. It's coming up on a couple months ago. And I bought it with a dead power supply, which I was able to address by just kind of decasing an ATX power supply. I had one of these extension adapters and made it into the plugs that go into the riser card using almost like fifth-hand information on what the pinout is. I think I have it wired wrong, but until I can fix the old power supply, I won't know what goes where on these plugs. So this machine runs unstable if I run it at 66 megahertz. So right now there's a dip switch in there somewhere. I got it underclocked at 50 megahertz because I could get DOS to install, but not a single version of Windows would work. No Windows 3.1, no Windows for Workgroups, no Windows 95, no Windows 98. So I just ran out of things to try and just tried underclocking it. So here's something really fascinating about this. So I'm looking at the listing on eBay and I'm like, that's suspect. It's only got one SIM in it. Well, those 4 chips right there are the first SIM. I don't know why there's 4 slots. I'm guessing if that is part of the motherboard, it doesn't have to have like a matching pair thing or whatever. There's something about the pinouts on SIMs that they're one-sided, and that's what the two, it's whatever. So anyway. So this one, we got a floppy drive and a CD-ROM drive. I'm going to guess that CD-ROM drive was added later. But it's there nonetheless, and that's good because I don't have any of my computer stuff here. The original hard drive that came with it, the Quantum something or another, did not work. I had a very long streak of good hard drives, but that one was DOA. So here's how you manage the drives. Let's see if I can do this one-handed or two-handed. I don't even think I can get it out now. Hang on one second. So all my power wires is getting snagged on, but you lift it up and it locks in place. There's the little gimmick right there. And then you can plug and unplug and whatever. So these things are famous, or infamous, I should say, for their silly drive rails. They're like these little L bracket things. See where those bolt on the front? And they just kind of sandwich in between the metal. In the box here. I don't know what they were thinking with that, but you can't find them anywhere, and apparently you can't fabricate them, so that's not good. I had to do some wire management because I couldn't get this thing to lock in place before. Anywho, so I got a Sound Blaster 16 in here. This is a Sound Blaster 16 PNP, plug and play. It has no jumpers for like the IRQs or DMAs or any of that stuff. And I got to thinking about it after the fact. I was like, oh crap, that probably doesn't work in this machine. Well, I guess that leads me into my next thing. This is a Compaq, so it does not have a traditional BIOS setup. So let's turn it on. I just put the power supply back together. I did an autopsy on the old one to see what's going on with that thing, and there were some burned up resistors, a bad MOSFET, bad rectifier diode thing. But if you watch here, I mean, there's no dialogues anywhere for like entering the BIOS at all. Normally there'd be a cursor flashing in the corner, but okay, here's the reason why it's not flashing in the corner. It's because I got Easy BIOS on here. This BIOS has a 503, 504 megabyte limit. So I got Windows 95 on here and MS-DOS 622 / Windows for Workgroups 3.11. Or no, my mistake. This is just regular Windows 3.1. So I found a rip of a Compaq hard drive and I use that. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that out loud, but there it is. It says Compaq. So I mean, 50 megahertz, plenty for Windows 3.1. There's really not a tremendous amount of stuff for me to do in here. I got some old entertainment pack discs that I have to load. I haven't done them yet, but here's Windows 3.1. So you can see it's working and whatever else. If I was to turn this off, however, hang on 1 second. Put it back in 66 megahertz mode. So it's got 16 megs of RAM. That's pretty baller for a 486. This machine was made in 1995, apparently, according to some verbiage in the system setup thing. Alright, let's see here. Actually, let's let it just go into Windows 95. I'm curious what will happen here. I was getting Windows protection errors and all kinds of silly stuff with this thing. Like error messages I have never seen before. Yeah, look at that. It just taps out. That's majestic. And I had a lot of... It locked up a lot. Anytime you go to install anything, it would lock up. So I'm glad, at least for the time being, I can underclock it and do it that way. DOS should work perfectly fine. Actually, let me load up Doom. We'll do Doom. Because Doom, when you get it into the actual game mode, it would lock up. And this machine doesn't have a reset button, so that's kind of aggravating. So when I got it, it locked up here. So I didn't have all this crap before. Here's my caps lock, and so you don't like 66 megahertz, I'm afraid. And I think that has something to do with my custom power supply. I'm sure that has something to do with it. Believe me, this is frustrating, watching this RAM count. I mean, it's so old school. But for a 486, I mean, in 1995, that was pretty late in the 486's life. And apparently this machine can take a DX4, according to that. Because all that multiplier stuff is built into the processors on these. I think the only catch with the DX4 is that's 3.3 volts. I think you would need an adapter for that, a voltage adapter. Well, thank goodness I didn't break Windows 95, because it literally took me like an entire week to get all the operating stuff sorted out on these things, on this thing. So I don't even really have anything installed in here. I haven't quite figured out what I want to do with this thing yet. Like, it's not quite buyer's remorse, but it's like I bought this thing because I always wanted to do a 486 build, and then like I did it, right? Like, I don't know if you can constitute that as being like a restoration thing. And I mean the cover. I mean this thing was completely filthy when I took it out. It's my Pentium 3 down there. I love that thing too. Trying to put this cover back on. And that thing takes some finesse too. I'm not gonna like completely lock it down, but there it is. It's that case design. There was a Prolinia 466 that looked exactly like this. There were multiple case designs during this period, and I can't find any information on this machine except on a French website. And the power supply pinout thing was for a 575. It was for like a Pentium 75 model. But I imagine they use the same power supply, so I'm going to shut this down again. And that is really funny, seeing that again. So, some stuff about this power supply. Obviously, it's got a hard on-off switch, like an AT power supply, but this one puts out 3.3 volts. Or at least the original power supply put out 3.3 volts. So I'm looking at that pin out, and I'm like, wow, that's like crazy. You know, but I imagine that's just like straight 3.3 volts for the PCI bus, I'm guessing, because the processor on a DX2 processor is apparently a 5-volt chip. It's the DX4 that's the 3.3. Let me see if I can dig my floppy disks out here. Uh-oh. I don't want to do all that. But I believe this is the system setup and diagnostics disk. So let's do the system setup deal. Show you what that looks like. Show you that minimalist arrangement. It is like the weakest BIOS arrangement ever. It really is weak. You can't even change the boot order. There's really not a whole lot that you can do with it. And once again, I have to do this off the floppy disk instead of the partition on the hard drive. Normally there would be a cursor that flashes in the corner there, and that signifies that you press F10 to enter system setup, which is this. So you see all that. And then you go into... So that is where you would install the diagnostics partition, but I can't do that because I'm using Easy Drive. Any drive overlay software you use, like you could install it first, and then once you do the drive overlay thing, it blows it all up. So they can't exist in the same space at the same time, unfortunately. Okay. Now it does have a CMOS. I think I was trying to get at the part with the dead lithium battery. Like every single time the machine would lock up, you would have to boot it once, clear all the errors, then reboot it again, and then you get to try it again. It's pretty preposterous. So there it is. It's going to say that it's a 450. But this is all you really get for the settings. But yeah, there's 1995. I don't know what these do. And I don't remember what that does. And then you go under storage. There's your floppy drive. There's your non-existent 5 1/4 inch drive. So that information is incorrect, actually, because that drive is actually to the left of me. This drive should be... So you can go in here and you can change all your cylinders and stuff. You do your CHS stuff in here, and none of it really matters. So yeah, it still thinks that this drive that I have in here right now is connected to the secondary IDEs. That's another thing that I completely overlooked. This one has the 2 IDE controllers, which is kind of overkill. You saw the inside of this thing. Like, you can literally only mount 1 drive, 2 drive, 3 drives. That's it. So I don't know why you have that support. I don't really know. But I wonder if I can clear this out like that. Okay. So there's that. Here's your operating system type. Like if you wanted to load OS2 or something like that, I guess you got the capability to do that. And then you go under advanced and you can turn your drive controllers on and off. Right now I got the CD-ROM. It's the slave to the hard drive. These don't seem to bother the hard drive that I got in it. Actually, I think that one was a mode 2. The Death Star was not a DMA. It's not an Ultra DMA drive. That's it for your video settings. This one's got onboard video. It's got an onboard Cirrus Logic something or another. We're not going to mess with that. And all the stuff is grayed out on this because I'm not using the original power supply. I never looked in this. What's under the more here? Yeah. And here's where it gets real interesting, the add-in devices. That's going to be the onboard video. This one's got onboard network. It's got like a game port looking thing. Shouldn't even be using that. I think I might... No, I don't have it disabled. Okay. I tried putting a PCI video card in. It was a Voodoo 3 out of a Golden Tee. Apparently those aren't compatible with like regular PCs, so I didn't get too far with that. But here's the PNP ISA category, so that works perfectly for my Sound Blaster. We got all this stuff. I wonder what are all these things. Oh, even the IDE shows up. That's funny. See, I always wanted a 486 build that didn't have like a second drive controller so that I could connect the CD-ROM with the soundboard. But I don't have to do that with this one. This one's too high class, apparently. So anyway, and then you can set your date and time, which apparently that's good. I had to pull the battery a couple times. I did it. Another thing I neglected to mention is that, yep, and then you save that, and it saves it in the CMOS. It does have a CMOS, it just doesn't have doesn't have like a ROM-based BIOS setup. You gotta use that program thing, but, getting sidetracked. Oh, it's got external battery support. It was something that was pretty common if you have one of those Varda barrel battery things, but this one had a lithium battery that was soldered on, which I desoldered it out. It was dead, and I put a socket in. So if it dies again, I didn't want to do this, by the way. Let's reset. I just wanted to show the diagnostics real quick. I forgot how slow floppies load. There's my Quake shareware disk. That's cool. Alright. So, you can do the computer setup, but I think it'll ask for the other disk. So I don't want to do that. I don't think. Here, let's look at this thing. This pulls up a big bunch of information in text. It's got to pull a lot of information. It's going to take a little bit. I wasn't expecting this to go so long, but I've been meaning to do it for so long. That's funny, I see the CD-ROM flashing. Just making sure you're not locked up, dude. Yeah, this just takes a little bit. So one of these green floppies is... You can see I don't label them. That was like a brand new box of floppy disks that I just happened to find, and the labels on it were destroyed. Like they don't stick. Retrieving ROM information. So this thing was a complete nuisance to set up because it would just lock up constantly. I don't know what compelled me to try underclocking it and why that makes a difference, but here, let's just go through a little bit of this stuff. There it is. Oh, I have no mouse. This is all keyboard. Funny, it says 387 compatible. Current system speed high. See, I wish it had the ability to underclock it so I can make it run like a 33 megahertz, but it didn't do that. Oh, this stuff is kind of worthless, isn't it? So it says for audio. My Sound Blaster 16. So that's the thing that's weird, is that it thinks that slot next to the onboard RAM is the fourth slot, and apparently it doesn't make a difference. I tried running it both ways, and it didn't get mad at me or anything. Well, anyway, I'm going to save the file. It's under here. There's your NV RAM. Bunch of gibberish that doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway. So I think that concludes my tour of what is going on here. It does have a test, a comprehensive test. I haven't tried running it because it makes demands and threats and stuff. So it's got a bunch of stuff here. Anyway, I am going to wrap this up. I wanted to do a demonstration of how to install Easy Drive. And this is the money maker right here, because it's got CD-ROM drivers on it and everything. So I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you for watching. I'm so glad to finally get this thing operational. I've got to find stuff to do with it.